More than 2,000 years ago, in the middle of one of the hottest deserts on Earth, Persian engineers were making ice. Not storing it, making it from scratch, overnight, in a climate where daytime temperatures could climb well past 100 degrees. No refrigerant, no electricity, no fuel of any kind, just water, clear sky, and an understanding of physics that modern researchers have only recently caught up to. This is the Yakhchal, literally ice pit, and unlike some of the other ancient technologies we've covered, this one isn't a myth or a misunderstanding. It's real, it's been rigorously studied by modern engineers, and the physics behind it is now being rebuilt in laboratories as a genuine climate solution. So let's actually build one. Start with what a Yakhchal looks like, because the shape is doing real engineering work, not just making a striking silhouette against the desert sky. The most recognizable examples, like the one at Kerman, standing roughly 20 meters tall, are built as a massive tapering cone-shaped dome rising up out of the ground, sitting above a deep storage pit that can plunge several meters below grade. The walls are extraordinarily thick, sometimes several meters at the base, built from a specialized waterproof mortar called saruj, a mixture of sand, clay, lime, ash, and, in some recipes, goat hair and egg whites, engineered specifically for insulation and water resistance. Nobody fully knows how Persian builders arrived at that exact recipe, but it worked, and it's part of why some of these structures are still standing today. That dome shape serves a second function beyond just enclosing space. Warm air, being lighter, naturally rises along the curved interior surface of the cone and vents out through openings at the top, creating a continuous convection current that pulls cooler air up from underground channels connected to the site's water supply. It's a passive chimney, moving air without a single fan or moving part. Water is often channeled from a qanat directly into the Yakhchal itself, not just the ice pools. In some designs, incoming water was routed along the shaded north side of the structure first, so that radiative cooling in the wall's shadow pre-chilled the water before it ever reached the storage pit, an extra stage of passive cooling stacked on top of the ice-making process itself. Some of these structures are remarkably well preserved. The Yakhchal-e in Kerman still stands at roughly 20 meters tall, with its cone shape, thick insulated walls, and channeled cooling water largely intact. The ice house near Maybod, in Yazd province, was traditionally paired with a caravanserai, giving long-distance desert travelers access to ice in the middle of one of the harshest overland trade routes in the ancient world. And this wasn't a luxury reserved only for the wealthy. In every case, ice from structures like these was regularly sold in city bazaars and delivered to households, used to make falude, a frozen vermicelli dessert, and sharbat, a chilled fruit drink, both of which remain part of Iranian cuisine today. The economics of an entire regional ice trade were built on nothing but this one piece of passive physics. Next to the dome, and just as important, sit the ice pools, sometimes called poolaks. These were shallow rectangular basins, some measuring roughly 100 meters long by 10 meters wide, but only 40 to 50 centimeters deep, closer to a wide reflecting pool than a swimming pool. That shallow depth is deliberate. Positioned in the open with tall shade walls nearby, some reaching over 10 meters high, to block direct sunlight and warm daytime wind, these pools were flooded at night with water channeled in from qanats, the same underground gravity-fed tunnels we've covered before. And overnight, even when the surrounding air stayed above freezing, the surface of that shallow water would drop below zero and turn to ice. That last detail is the part that sounds like it shouldn't be possible. Air above freezing, water turning to ice anyway. So let's actually explain the physics, because it's beautiful and it's completely real. Every object on Earth is constantly radiating heat away as infrared energy, including a pool of water sitting under an open night sky. Under normal circumstances, most of that radiated heat gets absorbed and bounced back down by water vapor and clouds in the atmosphere. But there is a specific window in the infrared spectrum, roughly 8 to 13 microns in wavelength, where Earth's atmosphere is almost completely transparent. Heat radiating in that narrow band does not get trapped, and it escapes straight through the atmosphere and out into space, which sits at a background temperature of roughly minus 270 degrees Celsius. That's an almost limitless heat sink, available every clear night for free. In a desert like the one surrounding Yazd or Kerman, two conditions make this effect unusually powerful. First, desert air is extremely dry, and low humidity means there is very little water vapor in the atmosphere to block that infrared window, so heat escapes to space far more efficiently than it would in a humid climate. Second, the same dry air dramatically boosts evaporative cooling, pulling additional heat out of the pool surface as water molecules evaporate away. Combine radiative heat loss with evaporative heat loss on a clear, dry, calm desert night, and a shallow pool of water can lose heat fast enough to freeze solid, even while the air 6 feet above it never drops below freezing at all. This isn't speculation or folklore. Engineers at Max Fordham, a building physics consultancy, built a detailed numerical model of the ice-making pond at Maybod near Yazd, and ran simulations across multiple winter seasons. Their model confirmed that radiative loss to the night sky was the dominant cooling mechanism, with evaporative cooling playing a significant secondary role given how dry the Yazd winter climate is. For a pond roughly 400 square meters in area, their simulation estimated the site could produce around 50 cubic meters of ice over a single winter season, millions of individual ice cubes worth, made with nothing but water, air, and geometry. And this isn't just a historical curiosity anymore. In the last decade, engineers and physicists, including researchers at UCLA and Stanford, have rediscovered this exact mechanism and built modern versions of it, sometimes literally out of aluminum foil and plastic wrap, to demonstrate passive radiative cooling as a serious, zero-energy climate technology. In laboratory and rooftop tests, these simple radiative coolers have measured temperature drops of 10 to 25 degrees Celsius below ambient air temperature, using nothing but a reflective, sky-facing surface engineered to radiate heat efficiently in that same infrared window the Persians were unknowingly exploiting 2,500 years ago. Some researchers have gone even further, using the temperature difference this creates to generate small amounts of electricity at night, with no fuel and no sunlight required. One physicist working on this technology has said plainly that he was stunned to learn how old the underlying idea actually was, that Persian ice makers had been using night sky radiative cooling for centuries before anyone had a name for the physics behind it. The research hasn't stopped at ice cube scale demonstrations either. Engineering teams have since developed specialized coatings and thin film materials designed to maximize emission specifically within that 8 to 13 micron window, while reflecting away as much incoming sunlight as possible, meaning some of the newest versions of this technology can produce measurable cooling even during the day. Under direct sun, something the original Yakhchal builders never attempted since their ice pools were purpose-built for nighttime use. Building scale versions of these coatings are now being tested as passive rooftop cooling layers, aiming to lower a building's interior temperature by several degrees without running a single watt through an air conditioner. It's a genuinely active area of materials science research right now, built entirely on a principle the Persians were using at civic scale before the birth of Christ. So here's how to actually build a small, functional version of this yourself, using the same principles. Start with location. You need 3 things the Persians had in abundance: a clear, unobstructed view of the night sky, low humidity, and shelter from wind, which disrupts the still air layer that lets radiative cooling do its work efficiently. A rooftop, an open yard, or any flat ground away from trees and buildings that would block sky exposure all work. This technique is dramatically more effective in dry climates than humid ones, in a place with consistently high humidity or frequent cloud cover. The atmospheric window closes and this method loses most of its power. So it's worth being upfront that this isn't a universal, works anywhere solution. Next, build your basin. Keep it wide and shallow rather than deep. A wide surface area maximizes exposure to the sky, while a shallow depth means there's less total water mass to cool. A basin just a few centimeters deep, lined with an insulating material to prevent heat from conducting up from the ground below, mimics the Persian poolak far more effectively than a deep container would. Add a shade structure, even a simple angled wall or overhang, positioned to block direct sun during the day and warm wind at night without blocking the sky directly above the basin. This is exactly the role the tall shade walls played next to the historical ice pools, protecting the water from daytime heat gain and nighttime convective warming, while leaving the view straight up completely open. Fill the basin at dusk and let it sit undisturbed overnight. On a clear, calm, dry night, the surface will begin losing heat to the sky faster than the surrounding air can replace it, and a thin skin of ice can form even when your thermometer says the air is still above freezing. Finally, harvest and store quickly. This is exactly what Persian ice harvesters did at dawn, working fast before the rising sun reversed the entire process, breaking up the frozen sheet and moving it into an insulated, shaded storage space, ideally partially below ground, where the Yakhchāl's thick Saruj walls and underground positioning kept ice solid through the height of summer. A simple modern equivalent is a heavily insulated, shaded box or buried container, sealed well enough to slow heat transfer from the surrounding air. None of this replaces a refrigerator for daily use. It's slow, weather-dependent, and works best as a seasonal or supplemental system, rather than a full substitute for modern cooling. But, as both the archaeological record and current university research confirm, it is a real, physically sound way to generate genuine ice, using nothing but water, air, and an open view of a night sky, a technique invented, tested, and perfected in the Persian desert, roughly 2,500 years before anyone in a laboratory rediscovered exactly why it worked. That last point is really the takeaway worth sitting with. This is one of the rare cases where ancient technology is not a marketing phrase stretched to fit a modern gadget. It is a documented, physically verified, still functioning piece of engineering, currently being studied by material scientists trying to build the next generation of energy-free cooling for actual buildings. The Persians did not need to understand infrared wavelengths or atmospheric transmission windows to make it work. They just needed centuries of careful observation, a shallow pool, a clear sky, and the patience to test what worked until they had built something that still stands and still functions in the desert today.